welcome back to another video of H&H Express model nscale trains. In the last video I mentioned which type of sensors would be possible to detect the train on my track using JMRI. And as mentioned, I'm using an analog track, so DC and not the DCC, so I still have some transformers to control the train speed on the track. In this video I'm going to talk about the turnouts, and as I mentioned in the previous video, I use snap switches, which means they need to be controlled by two relays to get straight and a diversion setting. But within JMRI, when you create a turnout table, the table itself, or actually the turnout, comes in an unknown state when you start JMRI. So how we're going to solve that? So we need to go into JMRI and create a script, and that is what I'm going to show you today. So I'm going to show you how my initialization process of JMRI works, that I run a script to set all turnouts on the main line to a straight, actually to the main line track. So let's go over to the computer and I will show you how that works.
So here is an overview of the layout which I currently have. All the blue lines are the main track, and you can see that we have a main track turnout 01, main track turnout 02. Here we have main track turnout 03. We have a main track turnout 04, which goes to a helix. Then we have a main track turnout 5, which goes to a siding track and then continues back to the main track. But let's go over here. We have a main track turnout 6 that is from and to the train yard. We have a main track turnout 7, which is also coming from the train yard. And we have a main track turnout 8, a main track turnout 9, a main track turnout 10, main track turnout 11 for this siding, and a main track turnout 12, which comes from the other helix. So those are the main track turnouts. I didn't add the turnouts on the train yard because that will be done in a later video. So, but every time you start JMRI, the turnouts are set to a unknown state. So we need to either click on them, so like this. So let me click on it. So now it gets to a diversion state, and if I click it again, it goes back to the main track, or here this platform track. If I do that for turnout 8 and turnout 3, those are connected to each other. So if I click on it, they will flip both to diversion, and if I click on them again, they will go to a straight. The same with main track turnout 5 and 11, those are connected to each other as well. And you can see that here, now it is a straight line, and otherwise it's set to diversion. So in my program, I'm gonna set all these turnouts to their correct state, which means this turnout is set to straight, this turnout is set to diversion, these two turnouts is set to straight, this one is set to diversion, that one is set to diversion, and so on and so on. But when we start up JMRI, JMRI doesn't know the state, so we need to do that in a script. So let me show how that works. So here I'm connected to the computer on which JMRI runs for my train track. So let's start it and let's see what it does. So I'll move away the cursor. And you see I have two options, the regular JMRI railroad or my railroad, so H&H Express railroad. So what it does, it opens all sorts of windows, and that is done in the startup procedure, and it also runs in the background a script, and we will see that what it is doing. So now it loads all the screens, and it will show at last the output of the turnouts. So I have the sensor table and the turnouts. So I'm still doing nothing. So and here you see that the turnouts automatically go from close to thrown or from thrown to close, and that is done by an automated script. So let's have that finished. It's now at 7, and then it will continue with 9 because 8 is connected to 3. And the last one should be 12. So this is the default status of all the turnouts. So let's go back to the other view and see how that looks like. So here we have the view, and that one is set to straight, that is set to diversion, and these are set to straight. This is set to diversion, that one is set to diversion, that one is set to diversion, this one is set to diversion, this one is set to diversion, and this one is set to straight. So let's dive into that script and see how that works. So in Panel Pro, you can go to Edit, Preferences, then I will load the preferences. You go to Startup, and here you see all the startup functions which I have run. So it opens the console, it opens the buildings, it opens the CMRI monitor for monitoring the lights. It opens the script output window. Well, at this moment we don't see that one. It opens the arrival messages script and the startup script. It starts the web server so that I can check on another computer how the status is. It opens the sensor table and the turnout table. So you can add more to that. So that is in the startup. So, and as you can see, I have here a startup script running. So let me show you that. So for scripting, you click on scripting, you click on script entry, and here you can write your script and then save it, and then later on add it. So let's open a script. So my scripts are located in the JMRI directory, in the railroad, under resources. And the script is called Startup Railroad Set Defaults. So here we are in that script, the startup script. And what you need to do within JMRI, because the language used is called Jton, it is Java and Python together. You need to set some functions, and functions in Jton are called classes. And then the class, you need to define some entries, and then later on you need to address that class. I showed you in the Arduino that you have a loop, a main loop, and within that main loop you address that function. Well, it works a little bit different in JMRI in the scripting language, because you don't have a loop. It actually, what it does, and at the end you have here a section called startup, and it says here start. So set startup function, that's the class which I created, and I call it with the option start. But since this is a script which only runs once, I return the function with false, so it ends. If I don't do that, then the function will repeat itself again, and then the turnouts are flipping over again. So let's go a little bit up here. In the help of JMRI on the webpage, they describe on how you can use it and how you can set it and what you need to do to import, for example, Java and Java Beans. Those are functions which you can use. You need to import JMRI, which also has some functions or some classes which you can use. And I'm also importing the time. That is to use the wait millisecond class or function. And in this case, I call this wait milliseconds 5000. 5000 milliseconds is 5 seconds. So if you see this 2000, that means it's 2 seconds. So you define the class, you can look it up how it is done in JMRI, and then you build your program underneath. If I want to have it continuous loop, as mentioned, then the last sentence, the return of that function, needs to be true, but I'm ending it. So within this function, I'm gonna address the turnouts. And you can do that with the option turnouts dot provide turnout, and then the turnout ID. And you can see that for turnout main track turnout 01, the ID is TT1001, and I will set a state. You can also request the get state, but the get state at this moment is unknown, so I'm gonna set the state first. But since I want to do a default setting, I'm first gonna set it to Throne, and then I'm gonna set it to close, so that I know that the default is set to close for this turnout. Other turnouts have the default setting Throne. What you can see with turnout number 2, so main track turnout number 2, which is connected to 1003, the default there is set to Throne, and that is done over here. So within the scripting language, you can set states of either sensors, turnouts, lights, or whatever you would like to do. I'm also gonna set some sensors, some internal sensors to this, but that is for a later video. So scrolling down to turnout number 12. So here you see that the last turnout, which is connected to TT1023, that is turnout number 12. You see that over here. The default setting is closed. So that is done here. In this same startup script, I, as mentioned, set some internal sensors as well, but that is for some later things. I'm using those for the arrival messages in which I programmed within JMRI as well. So that's a little bit a quick overview of how I do that in that script. And this script is, as mentioned, run only one time. So that means that when the script is finished, and I can show you that by putting this window on top, I will start JMRI again. And now I'm gonna start Panel Pro again. And let's run it. And then you see that it loads all the mentioned steps in the startup. And then at last you will see the output of the script at the top, and on the right hand side you will see the turnout table. So here we go. So it's set to thrown. Now to close, that's default. The next one, it's set to thrown as default. 3 and 8 go together. So that's number 7. Number 9, because 8 is already done. 11 is also already done, and the last one is 12, which is set to close. So let me switch to the other view. So now the turnouts, they are set straight, diverted, straight, diverted, 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 diverted. This is straight. This is straight, this is diverted, diverted, and this one is straight. So I hope you liked this explanation a little bit about the automatic script. If you want to learn more about that, I would suggest go to the JMRI help page and search there for scripting and how scripting works. I will certainly use some other scripts as well, especially for the messages for the platforms, and I will do that in a different video. So if you would like to see more of those, please leave a comment below, and then I will address it, and if you have some extra questions, then I will answer them the best I can. So please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell icon to get notified, and I will see you in a next video. Thank you and goodbye.